Welcome to another conversation episode with me in the series where we're talking about finding inner peace and security in the world as you go through your process, your journey, whatever you want to call your experience here, right now that you're having in this time. So in this specific conversation or this specific episode, we are going to be talking about illumination. And illumination can be something that is very spiritual, or it can be the understanding of allowing information into your vicinity or into your frame of mind that you may have not referenced in the past. It could be a new idea, a new concept, a new way of approaching a problem, a situation, or life in general. Something that had been hidden is now in the forefront of your mind. So when we start our conversations, the thing that I like to ask you is, what does illumination mean for you? And if you don't know what that means for you in your life right now as you're going through your journey, start with the dictionary meaning of it, and then from there apply it to your life, or attempt to apply it to your life and see where it parallels, the definition parallel to something that's happening in your life or to things that are happening in your life. And from there you can write out a list of what illumination means for you, what that, how is that relatable to you, what is it that it's asking you to look at that you may have been putting in the background, that you may have been neglecting to look at for whatever reason. Because a lot of times things are subconsciously embedded in us through our own desires as well as through the desires of others. And the reason they stay buried in the subconscious is because our conscious awareness doesn't want to look at it, doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to bring it to the forefront, because it may make us feel uncomfortable. It may make us feel uncertain about our future, about our present. And that is scary for a lot of people. And that can bring a level of fear, a level of disencouragement, or a level of lack of clarity. All these things are quote unquote triggers for people who like things to be a certain way. And if you listen to me, I talk about order and chaos a lot. And chaos is something that we can apply in our real life when our life is upside down. Everything is upside down. Everything is going wrong when it should be going right, or it's just not in a tangible place where we can grasp it, where we can understand what's happening. And that to me is a form of chaos in the mundane world, right? And order is, we know what's going on, we know what our schedule is, we know how things go every day. It's routine, it's dependable, you know what's going to happen. Whereas chaos is not. But in the middle of chaos, right, there's an opportunity to create something if you can bring order to the situation. And I say that nature is a really good example of order and chaos working in synchronicity with each other in such a beautiful way, that because of our human need to have facts and to always prove things to one another, that we sometimes miss the spiritual or the nuances of how the world works, that we may not have questions, or we may not have answers to the questions. But at the same time, we have to understand that we don't neglect the fact that we live in a physical world, the fact that there are rules in this world. What we are trying to do, or what I like to try to do, is understand those rules and see how I can still have my own experience, and for that experience to be of value to myself and others, while understanding the rules that I have, while understanding that there is mystery in the world, and I seek to understand some of that mystery, and I'm open and understanding that I may not understand it all. I will die not knowing all the mysteries in the world, and that's okay, because I at least tried. I didn't get so focused on the facts, or I didn't get so focused on intellect that I lost the spirituality, or I lost the fun. So it's about balancing that attempt to understand the chaos and bring it into order so you can create something tangible. And what does that have to do with illumination? That is an example of being illuminated, or being aware of, there are things in the world that you don't understand, but there are things in the world that have been tested and theories have come up about them, and there is a level of understanding. We may not have the full picture, but there is a level of understanding that I think as a society and as people living together that we adhere to in order for us to be copacetic, in order for us to have an experience where you have the freedom to have your experience, I have the freedom to have my experience, but yet on a collective consciousness, we're all doing something for the betterment of humanity. And it's just not self-indulgent, and we have to pay attention to that when we get into that new age mentality of being illuminated, being woke, being all these things that we're being taught about ourselves, about, you know, caring for yourself, about being able to set boundaries, about loving yourself, about unconditional love. We apply all these human conditions on all these things, and then we warp or taint the very innocent or loving definitions or ideas or concepts about these things. So that's why it's important to know yourself. It's important to come into the space with some illumination about who you are, what you're trying to accomplish in the world. And if you don't, then make time to do that, because it's really important to do such things, to open up yourself to the energies of the world, the energies of what's already established here, so you can be able to critically think about things, but yet not be so deep in critical analysis that you lose the spirit, you lose the intuition, you lose the internal dialogue that you have, because it's not based on any kind of factual evidence. There needs to be that sense of adventure or imagination about the things that we cannot bring into illumination. So that's the focus for this conversation. What does illumination mean for you? What do you need to know about illumination? It's like illumination is all the things that I mentioned before that you may not have any idea are happening, but they are happening. Like, for example, miracles are happening all the time. All the time. The fact that you're here right now is a miracle. And I know sometimes that people are so involved in their mundane lives that they forget the existence of everything around them is a miracle, because you've proven, like science has proven some of these things, how we're able to exist. But the answer is still not like, where did it come from? Was it the chicken or the egg? Was it the egg or the chicken? Is there a God in the sky, like marking everything down and checking if we were good or bad and then weighing the scale? What is it? Like, science has not been able to answer that. And then we're talking about, like, from an esoteric perspective, you have ethereal energy that, now, like, science is talking about there's another sort of energy. Like, before the atom was discovered, it was something that somebody thought of, possibly, that there are smaller and smaller and smaller particles existing, contributing to who we are. But until it was discovered, some people thought it was a myth. And maybe if they had talked about some of those things back in the day, people thought they were crazy. So we have to leave room for those opportunities as we have discussions about things. We have to be able to verbally communicate to each other our illuminated selves, our worries, our concerns about the world. And you don't have to agree with everything everybody tells you, but you allow room to contemplate the concepts. And if somebody has an argument that goes against what you're thinking, you have to also be open. Allow the illumination of that person's perspective to open up or illuminate your perspective, your world, and see if it has validity for you. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Maybe in another time it will have validity for you. I remember the first time I heard somebody say, like, you're God having an experience. I thought that was blasphemy. I thought it was the most like blasphemous thing I could hear somebody say, because it meant that I was taking away from the power of creation that was so beautiful, that created all of this, and saying that I had the potential to do the same. And it was like, whoa. And it's even as I'm saying it to you, my heart is like, wow, to come to that realization for me was illumination, was being illuminated, having a certain way of thinking, and that being disrupted, and me having to contemplate or digest that information. And it took me like 2 or more years to be like, oh, I see what they mean. I saw what they meant. And the reason I was able to see it in or outside of the ego was because I had known myself. I had taken time to know who I was, and I'm still taking time to know who I am, because I am a work in progress. I am not perfect. I do not do things perfectly. I process information, and sometimes I go back and say, maybe that wasn't, depending on my perspective and my level, my flow, where I'm at that point, my focus, I may have not seen or see the things that I need to see at this time, or I'm not ready to be illuminated in that way. And again, we go back to the fact that sometimes we're not ready to be uncomfortable. We're not ready to change our perspective, but it does happen. Like, I'm sure, when the horse and buggy was the main thing of transportation, the horse and buggy people weren't ready for the car. Like, there was somebody that was like, this is not gonna work, electricity, what, battery, engine, so somebody has to roll that out and continue to be persistent, and then the other people will catch up. But there's some people who still, like, horse and buggy is their transportation, the Quakers. They're not into technology, they're not into those types of things that help to make man's life easier. But that's okay, because they're on a different vibration and you're on a different vibration. So being illuminated doesn't mean you have to prove your illumination to anybody. It just means you have to understand what that means for you and how you can apply it to the world to be of value for yourself and the world. So I hope I'm making sense in that respect. And it brings in the miracles in your life, the need to know, like, the miracles that exist, you start to experience them more. And even if you don't know that they exist, you experience them. And then once you kind of like are able to heal through the process and understand the things that are so chaotic in your life that you may not be able to grasp the miracles that are happening, once you can work through that chaos and find order in your life, and by chaos, I mean things that are just constantly disrupting your flow, things that are constantly putting you at a space where you don't recognize the chaos, where you don't recognize the miracles, or where you're unable to illuminate yourself, to take in new information, and you stay stagnant, you stay in the same place. And when you're trying to have a conversation or someone is trying to give you new input, you boom, put a roadblock. To me, that is experiencing a state of chaos where you are so fragile that you can't take in new information. And that new information can bring a sense of order. And you can go into the opposite direction too, because when chaos and order are in extremes, they're both imbalanced. Like, let's say someone is so ordered, like everything has to be done, like this, like that. They are so fragile that bringing in a bit of chaos completely tears their world apart. And there are some people who live this way. And so that's why I always talk about finding balance, because the world, I believe, is about finding balance. So yes, where we are constantly where like the person is so fragile that a little bit of chaos coming in disrupts their flow, and so that disrupts their ability to be illuminated, their ability to take in new information and adapt accordingly. And that's why it's so important to learn to slow down. And if your world is in chaos, you have to have a level of orderliness or order in order to like bring things into perspective again. So it's a constant back and forth, order, chaos within a balanced system. And I don't know, I think it was Carl Jung who said this, that the world is in a state of chaos and order, or the world is always in a state of chaos with order managing it discreetly. So maybe that's something that you can ponder on, or look it up. And I think it was Carl Jung. But again, so what that helps us to do when we're able to balance that order is embrace other perspectives, is embrace conversations or ideas that are outside of your peripheral vision, that are outside of your network, that may be deep down on a subconscious level, but because you weren't able to receive that information, it stayed. And then once you allowed yourself, or said, you know what, I'm ready to be illuminated, I'm ready to have a different perspective, or to have that conversation with someone else, that's when those people step into your life to challenge how you're thinking. So when you have someone who comes into your energy and challenges what you think, it is an opportunity for you to embrace that new idea and go back and reconstruct it and say, is this really where I am going? Is this really something that that is helping me find value in my life and to give value to the world? And I always want to say that value to the world doesn't mean that you are something like big and famous. Value to the world to me just means like you're able to take care of yourself and you're not dependent on others to take care of you, especially if you have all your full like mind. Like there are people who don't have all their mind, and society does need to take care of them, and that's okay. But when you have all your mind, it is your responsibility to be able to give value back to the world. And you do that by being able to take care of yourself, by making decisions for yourself that help you grow, and by taking responsibility for your decisions. And that is a way of also being illuminated. That is a way of healing the chaos and of you not being so fragile that you're unable to take those responsibilities. And that is a way of embracing change and allowing change to come into your life and being able to manage the change in your life. And that allows you to release some of the things that may be keeping you from experiencing happiness. And a lot of the times we do this to ourselves. We put ourselves in such closed boxes, such closed spaces of what things are, of what is illuminating, what is unique, what is special, what is information, what is right, what is wrong, what is all this, that we inherently at times cause our own unhappiness. And then we project that onto other people and say, this person is causing my unhappiness. So in this session, we're asking ourselves, with regards to this series of inner peace and security, how do we need to illuminate ourselves? How do we need to take in new information or bring information from the subconscious energy and bring that to conscious awareness so that we can experience the miracles in life? The fact that the fact that we're here is a miracle, and you should find that precious and not waste your time doing things that are counterproductive or counterintuitive. And that does not mean that you don't work, you don't contribute anything to the world. That's just another form of self-deprecation. I don't know if that's the word, but of self-injury. But you don't know that you're injuring yourself at that moment because you're like, well, if it's not something I want to do, I'm not going to do it. But everybody does things that they don't want to do. The thing is this helping you grow? Is this teaching you something? Like, I don't know if anybody's my age and saw the old Karate Kid when Daniel-san is waxing on, wax off. Like, Daniel-san is like, why am I doing this? And what's his name? I forgot his name. Is like, you're doing it because I told you to do it, right? I think that's how it went. But he was teaching Daniel-san something, right? Daniel-san didn't want to do it. He thought it was a waste of his time, but let's think about it. Maybe he's teaching him patience. Maybe he's teaching him how to focus on something long enough that he can pay attention to what he's doing so much that he does it without even thinking anymore, that it becomes a part of him. It becomes something that comes out of the subconscious, becomes in the forefront of his mind, and he's constantly, and it allows him to focus. What is it that you're learning from this situation or doing this thing? How can you grow from it? How can you develop from it? And if you go, or if you align with the message that you're God, having experience as who you are, whatever your name is, whatever you are right now, you're God having that experience. Don't you want to make the best of that experience? And by making the best of that experience, I'm not saying like you got to go jump off mountains, because that's not your experience. There are some people that's their experience to jump off mountains, to do all sorts of crazy things because God wants to experience that. But maybe yours is doing your 9-to-5 job, being a musician, being an artist, being a YouTuber, being somebody who cleans hotel rooms. Like, my grandmother came to this country and she was a nanny. This was at the time where like someone who was an American citizen could sponsor someone from another country, pay them dirt cheap to take care of their kids, to clean their houses, and that's how she got to this country. She was sponsored by a family, and when she got here, she did it for a couple of years. She was like, whoa, this is like so much work and I'm not getting paid anything, and she quit. And her sister was like so upset with her because her sister was like, this family did this for us and you should be appreciative. And my grandmother's like, dude, I did my part. I'm illuminated. I'm here. I know there's something more for me. So I am going to do that. And she cleaned, she was still a nanny because she came here very late in her time. She had kids. It wasn't like she was going to go to college. She didn't have money or anything. My grandmother was really smart with numbers. But the point I'm making is she came here, she did the cleaning, she did the nanny work, she did the cooking for people, and she lived her life. And at the end of her life, she never had to like take anything from anybody else. And the only thing I think she wanted to do was be able to leave her kids some money. She sent all her kids to college, no student loans, no student aids, anything. She worked really hard and did that for her kids. And maybe before she died, maybe she would have been like, I wish I had done something else. But I think she died pretty content because she was like, I did what I came to do. I left my country, right? A place where I didn't have much opportunity. I came somewhere else where I had some opportunity, and I made more opportunities for myself, because when something wasn't working for me, when I wasn't able to, gain the full fulfillment of the miracle of being in X place versus being in another place, when I healed myself from thinking that this is all I could have and embraced another potential or another way to gain some level of happiness, I did it. I worked hard, I paid for my kids to go to school, and I was able to leave my kids something on my deathbed. And that was her life. And it seemed like she was content with that. And so I think this message is about your illumination being, what is it that you're content about? What is it that you're willing to trade off to have what you want? And we talked about, this is not the first time I'm talking about trade-offs, because I think they're really important. And allowing yourself to be illuminated in these kinds of processes, information and intuition, really is a way of healing things that have been taught, that are that keep us in a space where we don't appreciate the life that we've been given. We don't appreciate the nuances, the beauty, the experience that we're having. And we all can talk about the really messed up experiences that people have. I'm not here to talk about that, because I can only gauge from my experiences in the world, and I also know that I don't live in a bubble and that things that are really bad happen to people. But right here, with regards to your experience, what is it that you need to bring to the surface? How is it that you need to be illuminated? What are the miracles in your life that are a blessing to you, but you may not be recognizing them because you need to heal your own chaotic behavior, or your own chaotic thoughts about what you deserve in life? And how do you work to bring happiness in your life based on the circumstances that you're in? So let's bring this full circle. This message in this conversation, the focus is illumination. What do I need to see more clearly? By seeing things more clearly, then how do I recognize the miracles in my life? How do I connect with the miracle of this precious experience right now? How do I heal the things that are bad, the things that are negative in my life, the things that I can't control? How do I manage that and still be able to find happiness in my life, and to be able to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly, and still be able to be illuminated, still be able to take in new information, and still be able to be happy in the world? All right, I hope this message was helpful to you. I hope you find it interesting enough to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, because or if you don't know, this is how YouTube determines whether this information is relevant, whether it is worth spreading the word. And this is the cheapest way you can help me grow my business, grow my message, and connect with other people, by liking the message, subscribing to the channel, and sharing the information if you find it relevant. And hit the notification bell at the bottom, because that will let you know when I post more videos, especially about this series, because it's 10 videos, and so I will be posting. So once I post the next video, you will know, and you will get a notification to come check it out. And also leave me a comment, because I really do like talking to you guys. I really like having a conversation, a back and forth with my internet friends, or my internet fam, or my internet collective. I don't meet you in person, but there is an energy exchange that's happening. So I hope you connect with that and want to talk to me. And if you want to, talk to me more, you can go to my website. We can schedule a session together. That's another way you can support me. And if you're interested, I'll be posting pictures that are close-ups of my jewelry. And if you want to know what the jewelry is about, I have an information in the intro video about this series where I talk about the jewelry a little bit more. And that's another way you can support the channel. But again, the easiest way to do it, the one that won't cost you anything, is to subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell so YouTube algorithm knows that this information is relevant and helpful to the public, as well as comment, connect with me, let me know, because I'm always excited to read your comments. I love you. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you again. Bye.